Welcome to the Seahawks Squad Show. I'm Anderson Hurst. We're going to set the expectation level for the 2026 Seattle Seahawks defense for all of the, as we know right now, returning pieces to the team.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Turbo Robert Turbin. I'm at my son's basketball practice, and I'm going to tell you why the defense is going to come back next year and still be a slam dunk.
And then Corbin Smith, get on the Riley Mills hype train before it's too late.
Hey 12, it's the Seahawks Squad. Everything Seattle Seahawks every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Emerald City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get loud, 12s. The Seahawks Squad Show starts now.
What is going on, Seahawks fans? Anderson Hurst, Robert Turbin, Corbin Smith with you today on the Seahawks Squad Show. For those of you who didn't see yesterday's episode, what we basically did was we set expectation levels for the 2026 Seattle Seahawks offense. We're 2 weeks away from the draft. We got a ton of content coming your way regarding the draft, and we've been kind of breaking down, position groups which the Seahawks can improve in the next couple weeks, obviously. And this by no means, the roster right now is not what it's going to look like at the start of the 2026 Seahawks season. But before we, add everything that we're going to do in the draft in a couple weeks, I wanted to kind of do a little bit of evaluation on now that we're, a couple months removed from the Super Bowl, we can evaluate the season as a whole from some of these players, but also B, set the expectations. Do we expect them to be better in 2026? Do we expect them maybe some regression in 2026? And, by how much? So we did that with offense yesterday. We're going to be doing that with the defensive side of the football today. So Turbo and Corbin. Corbin, I'll start with you on this one. Overall, on the defensive side of the football, the Seahawks defense was arguably, and I almost would say inarguably, the best defense in the NFL in 2026. Do we expect them to be in that same realm? Do we expect them to be that top dog that everyone's kind of looking up to, or do you expect some regression as a whole in 2026 for the Seahawks defense?
If they're not a top three defense, then it's an absolute disappointment. I mean, they're bringing back 11 of the 13 players that played at least 700 snaps last year. They're going to have the vast majority of their guys back, and they've got some young pieces that are ready to take another step forward. I don't think the older players, the Leonard Williamses, the Jaron Reeds of the world, I'm not expecting those guys to just fall off the face of the earth. I mean, maybe you have a slight dip because they're getting to be a little older players, but I'm not expecting them to just hit a wall and suddenly, oh no, they're at the end of their career. I also look at the guy on the sideline, like Mike McDonald is not going to allow his defense to just crater in. And to me, cratering in would be if they don't finish in the top 10 and be like, what the heck happened? I'm expecting that they are going to be just as good, if not better. If they add a piece or two in the draft that can really help and contribute right away, this has a chance to be an even better group this upcoming season. So expectations are going to be incredibly high, maybe unrealistically high.
That's my point. Yeah. And that's my point. So let's set those expectations. So we know, I mean, someone who's around the team every single day, yourself, Corbin Smith, we should have high expectations for these guys. Like you said, it's important that it wasn't just a fluke what they did last year, right? And they should be repeating that. Turbo, they lose Boye Mafe, they lose Reek Woolen. I think two guys that, while important pieces in the 2026 Seattle defense, I think guys that you can, I don't want to say easily replace, but, it feels like, if a couple guys step up, kind of play to their potential a little bit, you bring back Josh Jobe, whatever you do in the draft in a couple weeks, it feels like, to me, that the majority, almost the entire majority of this defense is kind of set in stone, and you can expect them to either be exactly as good as they were last year, which is already very good. And I don't think it's even out of the realm that they're a step up from what they were last year. Do you agree, Turbo?
I do agree. And I apologize if you guys hear some basketball in the background. I'm at my son's basketball practice. He's he's trying to get it in. He's working on his right hand because he's a left-hand player. Okay, the left-hand shooter. But anyways, like Corbin said, I do expect the defense, man, to be one of the top defenses in the league. Again, my perspective is this. The only thing that concerns me, so you talk about the players that we lost, and so those players, are they replaceable? Absolutely. I think that we can, absolutely, we already have guys in place for that.
Yep.
We talk about age potentially being a factor. We've got youth for that, okay? But what we might lose is a little bit of depth, because the thing is that there's no guarantee that a rookie comes in and is ready to play right away, no matter how talented he was in college. And so the thing that I think about when losing some of the players that you just mentioned, Boye Mafe and some of the other guys, that could lead to less rotation. That could lead to less rotation throughout the game, which was a huge impactful thing for us last year. So, does that mean the defense takes a step back? Probably not. But you do get concerned about maybe we have a little bit of less depth, at least this next season.
Yeah, Corbin, I think Turbo makes a good point there. And this is a different situation than the offense because your play caller's coming back, right? Offensively, you can bring back the entire same, guys, which they're not. But, if this were the case, you still have a different offensive coordinator. So expectations need to be tempered with a little bit just to kind of make sure that everything clicks there. We expect it to with Brian Fleury, as we talked about yesterday. But you have the same play caller, and it's your head coach. And he's a guy that's been proven that he can do this at the top level in the NFL. So, what do you feel about losing some of those depth pieces, which is one of the strengths, I think, that made this defense so good in 2025?
Yeah, I think when you look at those three, I would actually rank it in this order from toughest to replace to easiest to replace.
Okay.
I would go at number one right now, Boye Mafe, just because I don't think there's a lot of edges that have the 255-pound, 260-pound size in this class that also have the twitch that he brought to the equation. I think the numbers don't suggest how well he rushed the passer a lot of last year. He had 40-plus pressures. He just couldn't get to the quarterback, in part because the interior was getting after the quarterback much of the time. So I think Boye Mafe was better than his numbers suggest. He wasn't. I would not have paid him anywhere close to what Cincinnati paid, but that's the way that the NFL and free agency works. I look at that just trying to find, if you're looking for somebody his same skill set, unless you're drafting somebody like a Malachi Lawrence out of UCF, you're probably going to have a little tougher time finding a guy that is a size and skill set equivalent to him in this draft. And look, they're older at that position group at edge. They're going to need to infuse that group with some youth sooner rather than later. So that would be number one for me. Number two, Reek Woolen, just because, look, I know he was inconsistent, but you don't find 6'4" corners that run 4.28 40s. You don't find that kind of stuff on trees. And there's very little experience behind Josh Jobe and Devin Witherspoon with the cornerback position on the roster. So that is a spot where the depth, if Nehemiah Pritchett proved that he's ready, then great. But if not, that's a position I'm expecting they're going to be very aggressive trying to draft somebody in the first or second round. Based on their top 30 visits that we've seen so far too. They have been bringing corners in left and right. They're doing all their due diligence. I think safety, this is not taking a shot at Kobe Bryant. That's the faith I have in Tyakata. You brought in DeAnthony Bell. You bring in Rodney Thomas, who started 2 years for the Colts, and he's only 27. I mean, they've got a ton of talent, and they got a lot of depth at the safety spot. So I'm feeling pretty darn good about what they have there at this point anyway.
Yeah. We'll get to, specific position groups in the returning players and specific players, I should say, in the next couple segments here. But just in general, Turbo, you made the point yesterday about Brian Fleury. And, even if he comes in and is an awesome play caller, it just takes time for someone new to come into this, situation, get to know what Sam Darnold does well. Even you can watch as much tape as you want. But still like learning and developing that relationship, so to speak. On the defensive side of the ball, that isn't the case. Could you say that's a positive on the defensive side, that you have a guy, A, it's your head coach, so he's setting the tone anyway with what he wants this football team to be. And B, it's a guy this is now in his third year, calling the plays on the defensive side of the ball. can he take another step up in that realm? It's hard to think that he can, because I think he's, if not the best defensive play caller in the NFL, one of them. But it seems like there's another level. He's still a young guy learning, about his roster, about what, works, what doesn't against certain teams. Do you think Mike Macdonald can take another step up? Now, he already has that relationship side of things that you were talking about. So now can they start to develop that even more moving forward into 2026?
Yeah, I think there's no doubt about it. Chemistry is big. Corbin mentioned 11 out of the 13 players that played last season played 700 plus snaps or something like that. In the defense. Come on, man. It's just like, one of the things that I remember having a conversation with Cam Chancellor back when we were playing, and and he was just talking about the connectivity of the defense, what makes them play so well and such at a high level, and it's just like it's that unspoken sort of language of communication where you just know what a guy's gonna, even if it's off script, you have such a feel for each other. It's like that he's gonna do this on this play, and I can respond to it. I can remember a play playing against the 49ers. They're inside the 20-yard line. Brandon Browner comes on a corner blitz. That wasn't a play. But he got in the backfield, he forced a fumble, and it was just instinct.
Yeah.
And guess who had his back? Cam. It was like one of those unspoken, like, okay, I see it.
Yep.
Boom, we can make the adjustment naturally without any real verbal communication. So when you're in a defense that's played together, that knows each other that well, you got the same play caller, those are the type of things that can happen, and that's how you can continue to expand and grow and evolve.
Yeah, Turbo reporting courtside here. Was that a travel that I heard? Do you agree with the call?
Travel's happening like every other possession in basketball these days, so I don't even know.
They just don't call it anymore, though, man.
Yeah, no, I feel you there. That's fantastic. So Corbin, last couple things here before we kind of get into the specific position groups with the Seahawks defense. Just in general, it seems like there's a lot of people that, both on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball, that because everything kind of clicked last year, especially on defense, you were the best defense in the NFL. There's almost just this assumption that some regression will come, especially from the older players. And you kind of mentioned that, Jaron Reed, Leonard Williams, DeMarcus Lawrence, we still don't know what's happening. Do you feel the same way? Because I know it's always like, oh, they're older. That means they're eventually going to fall off the cliff or anything like that. But I don't know if that's really the correct assumption to make going into next year.
It's never, I will say this, it's very difficult to predict when a player is going to have that fall off season. Yeah. You just don't know. I mean, there were some people, and I had some hesitancy about DeMarcus Lawrence last year, bringing him in, coming off an injury. And then DeMarcus Lawrence came in and had one of the best seasons of his entire NFL career. I think the thing that helps all three players that you just mentioned is that none of them have to wear a Superman coat on this defense,
right?
A Superman cape. They don't have to come out and dominate 24/7 to try to pick up the rest of the defense. There's so much talent around them. And I think a lot of times that's when you see an acceleration of the end of a player's career, when they've just got everything on their shoulders and they're trying to pick up all the slack. It just, I think that eventually it wears you down. And I think there's an emotional part to that comes into play. These three guys won't have to worry about that this upcoming season. If there's some physical regression, yeah, you're going to notice some things with it. But I think the Seahawks have the pieces in place where if Leonard Williams is just 85% of what he's been the last 2 years, that's still going to be more than good enough to help this football team remain one of the top defenses in the National Football League. And Jaron Reed, it would be much the same. DeMarcus Lawrence, maybe there's a little more pull there, but you are looking to add at that position in the draft too, to infuse some youth there as well. So I'm not looking for that to be a huge issue for this football team.
All right. That sounds good. I'm going to follow up with that with you, Corbin, on that one, because a couple episodes ago, you made the assumption that this Seattle Seahawks team right now could be better than it was at the end of 2025. I want to have you expand on that because we're still 2 weeks away from the draft. So you've lost some guys in free agency. You brought back a couple, but guys that were on your team as of last year. You didn't make any additions. So before we jump into position by position and groups and stuff like that, talk about why you think that this team could be even better right now as constructed before the draft than it was in 2025. Because I think it logically, for myself at least, you lose Kenneth Walker, you lose Kobe Bryant, you lose Reek Woolen, you lose Boye Mafe. Like, whatever you think about those guys and how important they were to the team, those are still guys that you lost. And you didn't add anyone new besides, I think, D'Anthony Bell, who was on your team for a little bit last year anyway. So why do you think that this team, as constructed right now on April 9th, 2026, could still be even better than what they were last year?
Because they were a year ahead of schedule, Anders. That's my viewpoint here. I thought this team was going to be a playoff team last year. I did not think they were going to be hoisting the Lombardi trophy, and things came together. The reason I'm saying that this team is better, in my opinion, or I think they can be better than the one that just won the Super Bowl, even before we get into the draft, I think Devin Witherspoon has just scratched the surface of what he can be. I still think Devin Witherspoon is a guy that can start getting interceptions. We know his pass rushing ability. We know everything else that he brings to the equation. I think Devin Witherspoon's got a lot of really great football still ahead of him that we have not seen yet. Ernest Jones is 26. Ernest Jones is in the prime of his career. Drake Thomas is 25. Drake Thomas, I think, has got even better improvements coming this upcoming season. And Josh Jobe, I think, is a player that's still kind of an ascending talent. Yep. And then Byron Murphy. We've seen Byron Murphy have a breakout sophomore year, but I think he's still got a lot of great football ahead of him. Totally. I just look at all those pieces. Now it's just talking defense. We could have this conversation on offense too, but yeah. I just think they have so many young pieces that it just felt like last year they were a year ahead of schedule. That could be a scary proposition for the rest of the NFL when these guys continue to ascend, many of the young players I mentioned there.
Yeah, and you didn't even mention Nick Emmanwori, who I think was going to take another massive step this year. So let's get into position by position here. I love kind of the little preview that Corbin set up there. We're going to go start with the defensive line. We'll throw in the edge rusher category with the defensive line here and kind of do an all-encompassing, because I think that's the biggest question mark. You have a couple of the older guys, like we talked about, Leonard Williams, Jaron Reed, DeMarcus Lawrence in there as well. Chenna kind of still trying to figure out if he's going to be kind of a full-on healthy guy, if he's going to be a main contributor moving forward. You don't know what you're going to do in the draft there, so that's kind of it's a big question mark. But as of the guys returning right now, do we expect more than what they brought in 2025, or do we expect some regression, or do we expect them to be basically what they have been up until now? We'll talk about that next year on the Seahawks Squad Show. It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is, well, it's a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year's getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out, knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment. Welcome back, Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Robert Turbin, Corbin Smith with you guys today. We're talking defense in terms of actions in 2026 compared to what they did in 2025. Jump up, kind of stay the same, or are we expecting some regression? We'll go kind of position by position group, but also player by player in those positions. And we're going to start with the defensive line right now. Corbin, Turbo, let's get to you here. As a whole, do you think the defensive line takes a step up in 2026? And you don't have to incorporate what you think will happen in the draft. The guys that are on the roster right now, do you think the D-line takes a step up, maybe stays the same, or maybe do you expect some regression there?
And this is including the edge rushers as well?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, listen, this is the position that probably concerns me the most,
Okay.
to be honest. I mean, and it doesn't really have a lot to do with the age, although, you know, you can look at it and say that that's a factor.
Yep.
But you got a couple guys. I mean, you got Uchenna coming off injury. You know, you got DeMarcus Lawrence, who's, you know, kind of like straddling the fence on whether or not he wants to play.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that he's been in the league a long time. You know, he's had a lot of individual success, and he finally got to hoist that Lombardi trophy. And so you have to wonder, even if he did come back, you know, is the want to really still there? You know, is it the same, right? And so that's the area that concerns me, because Corbin, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was some struggle, you know, getting pressure on the quarterback consistently at times, especially early in the season, as they were trying to kind of find their chemistry among the defensive line, and then they became dominant, you know, towards the second half. It didn't help losing Uchenna, but you know, you have to look at those things. I'm looking at those things. I'm saying, man, you know, can they have repeat success? I don't know. Now, I don't think they're going to be trash by any stretch, not even close. You know, Corbin said there'll be a top 3 defense next season. I agree, and the defensive line is going to have a huge part in that. So will they be as dominant as they were this past season? I'm not so sure on that one.
Corbin,
so I think there'll be a little bit of regression there.
I don't disagree with them, because, you know, here's the thing. You have to – every team is different. It doesn't matter how many guys return from the previous roster. There's always going to be differences every single year. And I think the strengths of this defense are going to be a little bit different than what last year's group was. I think at times that defensive line was the cog. And I think most of the time the dominant defenses, that's the way that it goes. You win football games in the trenches, but Seattle is just oozing with talent in the linebacker, corner, and safety groups. I think that this year, you know, the defensive line, there's going to have to be some younger guys step up. But one of the reasons why I'm going to just say that right now that it stays the same for the most part, it's the Riley Mills effect. I am all in on Riley Mills coming in. And it is not just – look, that sack was incredible. There are very few plays. I mean, I generally stick to what the rules are in press boxes. Like, you can't be a cheerleader in a press box.
Right.
I had a very hard time. I mean, I audibly gasped when Riley Mills made that sack, because it was just one of those unexpected, rare plays. But, like, he did stuff like that on his Notre Dame tape all the time. If he doesn't tear his ACL, he's a second-round pick, and the Seahawks got him in the 5th. I think Riley Mills is going to be a guy that, with a healthy offseason, he is going to step in, and he's going to take some of that load off a few of those older guys and help keep them fresh. So defensive tackle, I could make an argument the Seahawks are going to be a little better this year. Edge, the draft is going to be a huge thing, unless you're expecting Connor O'Toole or Jamie Sheriff to come in. And I'm not expecting either one of those guys to jump up and suddenly have a significant rotational role, but that's who they have on the roster right now. You know, maybe Jared Ivey gets his opportunity to play some as well. But that's going to be the position where they really need to, you know, the draft, you're going to need somebody that can come in and at least contribute and give you some quality reps. That'll take a little bit of growing pains. But I think DT is going to be a little bit better overall. Edge right now, I would say, is a little bit worse. And we'll see what the draft ends up doing to kind of polish up this group, so to speak.
Yeah, so Turbo, we heard Corbin's thoughts on the veterans. Let's specifically talk about Leonard Williams and Jaron Reed. Do you expect a little bit of regret? Leonard Williams, his last couple of years have been one of the best defensive tackles in the NFL. I don't think it's even close, to be honest. He's 31 now. Is it realistic to expect him to take another step back, or do you think that he is still like that guy and like he's going to come in being Big Cat once again?
No, I think Leonard Williams is still going to have a huge impact on the defensive line. I don't really respect it. I don't expect a lot of regression. It's interesting, you know, on the outside looking in, you say, you know, it's like, man, Leonard Williams, he's 31 years old. 31, I'm telling you right now, if you're doing it right, you still feel pretty good at 31.
Yeah.
Still feel pretty good at 31. And Leonard Williams strikes me as a guy that does it right, you know. And so, listen, I think he'll still be the Big Cat that we've, you know, always, come to love? Is he going to be the 24-year-old guy? Of course not. He's much wiser and smarter as a ball player. He probably feels better now than he did, in his 20s, if he's taking care of his body the right way. And so to answer your question, Leonard Williams specifically, I don't see a step back happening this year at all. 31, still a young age if you're doing it right.
Yeah, Corbin, what about Jarran Reed? Because I think quietly he had, A, one of the best seasons of his career last year, and B, was a very underrated piece to that defense. Do you expect him to be in that same realm? He's 33, so he's even a couple years past that at this point. So does he kind of transition into a veteran leader, but maybe not as much of an impact on the field? Or do you think he's still going to, kind of prove us wrong and say that you can keep doing it at the age 33 and north of that?
Defensive tackle is an interesting position because, especially the Seahawks over the years, they've had a lot of success with older defensive tackles where it doesn't seem like they run out of steam as quickly. And I think Jarran Reed's another one of those guys that he had so many good veteran mentors when he came into the league, and he learned so much from those guys. He knows how to take care of his body. He hasn't had to take quite as many reps the last couple of years because of the talent that they've accumulated at that position. And I expect that he is going to maybe take a even smaller amount of reps this year, but he's still going to play a significant role. And I think with that diminished role in terms of snaps, I still expect him to be very effective. I think Jarran Reed's got another 2 or 3 years in the league. Right. I mean, that is a position, like I said, if the guy takes care of his body, that is a position historically where guys can play at a high level into their mid to late 30s. We saw it with Kevin Williams. We saw it with Tony McDaniel. There's been a couple others the Seahawks had that played well into their 30s. I mean, Al Woods was playing at a high level at 36. I mean, this is a position guys can play really well for a long time and have lengthy careers. I'm not worried about Jarran Reed. He's going to show up, and he's not I've heard some people talking retirement with him. Like the conversation, the last time I talked to him, he did not sound like a guy that was ready to go get out of a lawn chair and be done playing. He sounds to me like he still is very motivated to play this game. So I think Jarran Reed, is he the player he was 5 or 6 years ago? No, but he is still a beast to deal with in the trenches, and he is one of their unsung leaders. It's been quite the transformation for him from when I covered him when he first was in the league to what he is now. Just incredibly valuable in that locker room for this team.
Yeah, Turbo, what about the other end of the spectrum? What about Byron Murphy, someone who felt on the ascendancy, obviously, a first-round pick a couple years ago? It feels like it's maybe his rookie year, a little bit underwhelming. I think deeper numbers would suggest that, he still played pretty dang well. Last year, he took a step up. Do you expect another step up from him? I mean, he was a first-round pick, and a lot of people thought the Seahawks kind of got lucky to have him fall to them at that position. So do you expect another step up for Byron Murphy II?
100%. When you have veterans in the same room as you, like a Jarran Reed and Leonard Williams, and even DeMarcus Lawrence, when the DTs and the defensive ends are meeting together, you it's almost automatic, for you as a young player to go and get better. And they're ready to hand him the keys to the car. You look at guys like Jarran Reed. This is where the depth is really important because, a guy like Jarran Reed, the reason why he's still going to have an impact is because of the rep count that he's going to be on throughout the season.
Great point.
And that rep count is going to keep him fresh and keep him explosive and keep him ready for the fourth quarter throughout each and every game. Byron Murphy, however, where he used to kind of be on that sort of rep count kind of guy, at some point it's going to be his car, it's his house at some point, where he's going to be that down after down sort of bell cow defensive tackle the way that Leonard Williams once was and has been, for the Seattle Seahawks. And so, I expect him to ascend because he's got good leadership around him.
Yeah, and it's a great point because you look at kind of the timelines here. It seems like let's praise John Schneider for a sec. The roster building and the timing of all these players' careers, while you have players that are kind of in the later ends of their prime, with Leonard Williams and Jaron Reed. It's a perfect time as the younger guys are stepping into their prime, like the Byron Murphys of the world. And it's like passing the torch. You know what I mean? So it's great to be able to learn from those guys, dudes who, have done it in this league for a long time and are still playing at a top level, by the way. But then also this young guy who has all the talent in the world, can take that next step up. And I do think Byron Murphy takes another step up next year. I think he turns into just a true dog that is going to start to become even more of a household name than he already was before. All right, so we didn't really get to specific players along the edge. Let's do that in the next segment. Put them in with the linebackers here as we talk the next level of the defense. We're kind of setting expectations for the defense on a group that was the best defense in the NFL last year. Seahawks Squad Show will be more. We'll break down a little bit more on the other side of this break. The NBA playoffs are here where every possession matters, every matchup is magnified, and every game can swing in a series. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers a great way to get in on the action. You can bet just $5, get $250 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. The app makes it easy to follow the action with player stats, trends, and matchups all in one place. And during the playoffs, that extra insight really matters when you're looking at stars, role players, and key moments. It just makes the entire playoff experience more engaging from start to finish. I love how personalized everything is. You can make the exact bets you want. Whether it's, kind of team bets in terms of just the over-under, the money line on specific nights, or you can go player by player and even do live betting as well. FanDuel makes it super easy to whatever kind of floats your boat in the sports betting realm. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Welcome back, Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Robert Turbin, Corbin Smith with you. We're breaking down expectations going into 2026, whether we think, a specific player or position group is going to be better than they were last year, expect around the same or maybe a little bit worse. We're on the second level, linebackers, and we'll throw in the edge rushers specifically in this category as well. But let's kind of finish off that defensive line conversation with those edge rushers. Corbin, I think one of the not outliers, but most interesting wild cards on this exercise would be Derek Hall, because I feel like he took a big step forward last year. It almost feels similar to Byron Murphy. He can take another step forward if he's going to elevate it, especially now with Boye Mafe gone. He's going to get more of a chance to do that. What are your expectations for Derek Hall in 2026?
I think Derek Hall has a much better chance to get a second contract than what Boye Mafe did. It kind of felt like last year at this stage, I remember having conversations about Boye Mafe. It was like, well, what are they going to do with him? And it kind of felt like, well, you're going to this year just kind of waiting and seeing. But that's always risky with edge rushers, because if Boye Mafe would have went out and got like 10 sacks, then Seattle has absolutely no chance of getting him back unless they franchise tag him. Derek Hall, I think he is a more complete player than Boye Mafe. And I think that you're going to see that reflected in the fact that I think he's a guy that commands more attention from opposing blockers, and just kind of the way that just the tenacious style that he has. I think that his attitude, his play attitude meshes more with what Mike McDonald is wanting. So I'm not saying the Seahawks are going to extend him, but I would not be surprised if he is a guy that gets a deal before the season starts. I think John Schneider and Mike McDonald, we've heard how glowingly Mike McDonald talks about this kid, just the mentality, the way he plays the game. No offense to Boye Mafe, we never really heard that. We never heard him talk about Boye Mafe in that same vein. So one of these young guys they got to keep on that edge position. It's expensive, but I think Derek Hall is the one that's still, going on 24, 25 years old. He's still a young player that's got a lot of really good football left in him. And he had shown, he did it in the Super Bowl, he can take over games.
Yep.
There's just got to be a little more consistency in terms of his production, rushing the passer. But he's got all the tools to be able to do it. So I think that's another reason this defense could be better this year, because I could see Derek Hall having a breakout fourth season. The Seahawks might want to pay him before that happens, though.
Ooh, I like that little prediction there. Turbo, what does that mean for Chenna One more year under his contract as well. I know he's a little bit on the older side. He is 30. So different situation, obviously. It's not his first contract. They already extended him. But he's had trouble staying healthy. And when he did play, I feel like he made an impact last year. But as Corbin said, you're going to have to keep some of these guys. You can't just keep, filling this with draft picks, right? So what are your expectations for Chenna going into his last year in his current deal?
Yeah, and this is where when I think about the defensive line, this is why I think there's going to be a slight step back, because it's really the edge. It's like, all right, DeMarcus Lawrence, if he comes back, it's like, are you still hungry? That's real, y'all. That's a real thing when you're out there playing, man. Because DeMarcus Lawrence, where he was out there last season playing like a crazy dude, and it helped. And he was hungry. He wanted the chip so bad, and he got it. So it's just like, okay, what next? What are you hungry for now? For Nwosu, he's getting a little longer in the tooth, and it's different for every player because of health. Right? When you have those injuries, you kind of start to age quicker, naturally, and so you question like, where's the real impact? This is an important season for Derek Hall, man, because we talk about handing the keys, like, the edge position. That could be his house, to take over for DeMarcus Lawrence and Uchenna Nwosu, and he be that premier edge rusher, for the Seahawks, that consistent guy that can play down after down. The truth is he's still been a rotational player. And so, dang, has he earned the trust yet to be, a 3-4 down guy? Has he developed into that this season remains to be seen. I hope so, because it's important to the success of the Seahawks defense, not only this year, but moving forward.
Yeah, Corbin, what are your thoughts on Chenna? Is there any chance the Seahawks try and get creative? Obviously, he wouldn't come back at the level that he's being paid at right now, but he is 30. Like I said, productive when he's healthy, but it's been kind of a rare instance since he's gotten that contract.
I actually think there's a decent chance that they find a mid-ground here, and I think if Chenna would like to finish his career in Seattle. I think he would like to play here for a couple more years. We'll see where he's at that point, but I could see this being one of those where they give him a 2-year contract. John Schneider at this stage with 30-plus-year-old players, you can start doing the year-to-year proposition, but I think in this case they could do the 2 years, which helps you spread out the cap hits a little bit more. But it's not going to be, like you said, it's not going to be the price tag that they just paid. And if he's looking for that, I think he's going to have a hard time getting that as a free agent with his injury history and his age. So I think for the Seahawks and Nwosu, finding that comfortable financial spot with some incentives baked in, that's going to be a big part of the equation. I think John Schneider will be more than happy to pay those incentives if the player earns them.
Yeah.
But I think that's the stage of his career that he's at now, where he's going to have to be willing to take those type of things, especially if he wants to stay in Seattle.
Yeah, and I think this is one of my breakout candidates for this year, Chenna, because I feel like, again, he kind of flies under the radar based off of, everything else the defense was doing last year. If this is a big if he finds a way to stay on the field for the entirety of the year, he had 7 sacks last year. And I think he only played something like 12 games or something like that. So I still remember the 2022 season when he had 9.5. And I know sacks aren't everything. Obviously, it just depends on what's happening out with elsewhere in the defense. But he has the tools to be an elite pass rusher. We haven't seen it every single down, every single year for the Seahawks. But if he finds a way to put it all together in 1 year, I think this is his contract year too. If he wants another contract, whether it's here or elsewhere, this is your year to kind of prove that you deserve it. So I totally see a reality where Chenna comes out, he has 8-9 sacks again this year. So would be great for this defense if you could kind of replace Boye Mafe while he didn't have the sack numbers as Chenna did last year. You got a lot of pressure. So If you have something like that happen where he, finds a way to stay healthy for the entire season, I think that'd be huge. Let's go to the stack linebackers here. Ernest Jones, one of my MVPs of the defense last year, just because of his leadership. Obviously, has the green dot as well. Turbo. What are your expectations for EJ going into year 3 as a member of the Seattle Seahawks? Turbo kind of broke up later, so let's go to Corbin first. Corbin, what are your expectations for Ernest Jones in 2026?
I still think Ernest Jones hasn't played his best football yet, and we have to remember he missed 2 games last year. Not that was like a big red flag or anything, but he missed a few games with a knee injury. He's going to be fully healthy coming back from, and I think late in the season he was playing close to 100%. But Ernest Jones is still only 26 going to 27. I think he is just now in the prime of his career, and he fully has Mike McDonald's defense internalized. He is a coach on the field, flies all over the field, horizontally, into the backfield, you name it, incredibly instinctive. The things that he did in coverage last year, 5 interceptions. I mean, that was a part of his game that's just now starting to really blossom. And we know how teams like to attack the middle of the field in the NFC West. Having a guy like that out there that can be rangy and make those plays. He can blitz. I didn't feel like last year they used him much in that capacity. So this year we might see a little more of EJ coming after the QB, and he's more than capable of doing that. I just think he's as complete of a player as you're going to find on this Seahawks roster. And look, I think first team All-Pro is where he can be at this year. I think that especially a full year with Drake Thomas starting next to him, I think the sky is still the limit for this guy. He's an incredible player. Yeah,
Turbo, what do you thought? EJ, can he take another step up in 2026 and it's hard to imagine because he played so well last year, but I agree with Corbin. I think he can take a step up. Do you agree?
I do agree. And it's interesting with Ernest because I feel like he has this chip on his shoulder where he feels he doesn't quite get the notoriety he deserves as 100%. A Mike linebacker. And I think that drives him every single day. And I think that's going to drive him even more heading into this season, that he wants to prove that he's one of the, if not the best, middle linebacker in the league. He wants to be talked about like the Fred Warners of the world and everybody else. And I feel like he feels he's continually overlooked. And I think that, elevates his play. I think that plays into his play elevating this season. And so, yeah, there's definitely another step in him.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I totally see that in his game, and I love it. I absolutely love it. He's one of the vocal leaders on this team. Obviously, you have the Devin Witherspoons, and you get some sound bites from other guys too. But for a defense as dominant as they are, it seems like they don't have a ton of those guys that are just gonna, just kind of blow your eardrums out with quotes galore and stuff like that. But he's one of those guys. Him and Spoon are like the talkers on the team, and I absolutely love it. I think you need that. You need that kind of swagger. But Corbin, you mentioned Drake Thomas next to him. How impressed were you? Did it come out of nowhere in your eyes, or were you kind of expecting this, kind of being that second guy next to EJ?
I didn't think that he was going to be starting. I mean, I fully expected Tyrese Knight was going to take a big step in year 2. And the crazy thing is when Tyrese Knight played last year, he played really well. It's just Drake Thomas just did too much when Tyrese Knight was coming off of he had a medical issue that kept him out of training camp, and Drake Thomas sees that opportunity. And you have to remember, this is another example, and this is the perfect time of year to be talking about this. There are way too many people in this NFL evaluation business that get caught up in height, weight, and to an extent the athletic metrics over what a dude actually does between the lines. Because Drake Thomas was an absolute monster at North Carolina State. I mean, the guy had almost 20 tackles for loss his senior year. It's not like he was playing low-level competition. He was in the ACC. And he was one of the top tacklers in the country. He had a bunch of sacks. He had several interceptions, but he did everything. But everybody looked at him, and I've stood next to him. I'm just a hair under 6 foot tall, and I'm taller than Drake Thomas is. So he's not a big guy, but you can't measure the the size of a heart when you're looking at production too. And this guy, he is another one that I think going undrafted, and he does it much more quietly. This is a soft-spoken dude for the most part, but like there is a relentless desire to show people that they were wrong, that he is going to carry his entire NFL career. Even as a Super Bowl champion, he's going to always feel slighted. You didn't draft me. I've got more to prove. And I just think, look, I call him the torpedo. That's been my nickname for him since I watched him in college. Just the way that he does. He looks like he gets shot out from a submarine, the way that he goes after guys. I think he's another one. His best football, he has yet to touch that. And so you put those two together, and Tyrese Knight, I think they're going to find ways to get him a few snaps here and there too, just because Tyrese Knight has played well when he's had his opportunities. But linebacker, at least for the next 2 years, is as good of a position as Seattle has, both in terms of starters and depth.
Yeah, Turbo, is what Drake Thomas did last year an outlier in your eyes, or do you think that's like he's going to take it? He's going to be that guy, or even possibly take another step up in 2026.
Yeah, no, that's who he is. That's who he is. I mean, he played so consistently last year. It's not an anomaly at all. You know, when a guy shows you week after week who he is, you need to believe that. and Drake showed it, you know, every single week. And so, you know, I was on that side that was a little bit shocked, man. I'm like, man, I didn't even know he was a linebacker. I'm gonna be honest. I thought he was a safety size-wise. I thought he was like a down safety. And, you know, Corbin kept referring to him as a linebacker. And I'm like, man, this dude is a linebacker, and he's a linebacker. You know, he's a linebacker, man. And so you love guys like that who have no ego and just a huge chip on their shoulder. Team first player, and is just willing to put it all on the line, you know, for the guys next to him. Drake Thomas is going to be playing football for a long time.
Yeah, I love it. I think I completely agree with you about it. It's just, you need players like that on your team. You can have the guys who are highly touted, who are going to be good prospects that you can develop into really good NFL players. But then you need those guys like him, Tyakata on the secondary as well. Corbin, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to point this out again. Look at the guys that got retained by the Seahawks this offseason. Yeah. Drake Thomas got a 2-year deal instead of a tender. Like the Seahawks rewarded him.
Josh Jobe.
And Josh Jobe got the 3-year, $24 million deal. And Tyakata, I think, you know, Tyakata balls this year, the Seahawks are going to try to lock him up. They're not going to restricted free agent tender him. They're going to try to lock him up because they love guys like that, that have that perpetual chip on their shoulder. 2 of those guys got jettisoned by other teams too. Like Mike McDonald loves guys like that. Yeah. And I think it's a huge part of the championship DNA of this football team.
Totally agree. Let's head to the secondary. Now we've kind of teased it a little bit. It just seems like these guys are just getting better and better and better. I know they lost Reek, but it's almost just inevitable that they're going to take that next step up based on the talent that they have there and the mixture of really good personality as well. So let's talk secondary here as we're evaluating expectations going into the 2026 season of the guys that are currently on the roster before the NFL drafts here on the Seahawks Squad Show. Welcome back, Seahawks Squad Show. Anderson Hurst, Robert Turbin, Corbin Smith with you. Turbo's on the go, as he always is. I mean, your name shouldn't be Turbo if you're not on the go all the time. Like, what's going on there? I love it. I love it. No, you're just leading into your persona there. Let's talk secondary, guys. In general, it just seems like these guys are ready to take that next step up. And it's weird because I think if you were to ask any Seahawk fan what part of the defense they think was the best in 2025, of the league's best defense, won the Super Bowl, all that, they would say the secondary, but I still think there's still another level to these guys. I really, really do. Whether it's Nick Emmanwori taking a step up from his rookie year, whether it's Tyakata, as you mentioned, Corbin Smith, whether it's Devin Witherspoon, you know, there's so many like ways that these guys can get even better than they were. So, Turbo, do you expect the secondary to take a step up, or do you feel like, you know, maybe expectations are a little too high?
I feel like expectations might be just slightly too high. I am a little bit concerned about, what we lost in the secondary. I know Kobe Bryant is a guy that you feel is replaceable, and perhaps he is, but man, he has some athletic ability and really came into his own, over the course of his years as a Seahawks, and it was really cool to kind of see his development. And the same thing in regard to, Tariq Woolen. So, my concern is not only just the depth, but I get concerned about down to down stuff, man, down after down. It's easy to say, man, the guy plays so well, you plug him in,
Yeah.
but it's like, it's like when you talk about running backs, you got your 3 down. We talk about, man, is he a 3 down guy? Or is he just a 3rd down back? Or is he a 1st and 2nd down player? We need to bring in a 3rd down. But there's then you have the McCaffreys of the world and those guys who are just, you can just leave them in the game all game. And that's something you got to get used to. It's an adjustment, some guys, for players who aren't quite used to that. So is it a huge deal? No, but for me, it can be slightly concerning.
Corbin, yeah, do you agree with that, or do you think this secondary could take another step up?
So I agree with Turbo at the cornerback position, because I have concerns behind the top 2 guys. Like, we have seen flashes from Nehemiah Pritchett, like that end zone punch out he had against the Cardinals last year. Like, there are plays where you're like, man, this kid has tools. Like, this guy can play, and then he'll turn around and have a game like Tampa Bay where he comes in and then Baker Mayfield's like, all right, I'm going to checkmate here the next couple throws, touchdowns, just pick on him. Like, they need consistency from Nehemiah Pritchett in order to be that number 3 corner. And he's in year 3. If you're going to figure it out, this is the time to do it. And, Noah Igbenogany has been a huge disappointment as a former 1st-round pick. The Seahawks seem to think they can get the best out of him. And who's to doubt Mike McDonald and Carl Scott doing that? But, like, I have questions at that position. That, to me, is maybe the most important spot that they've got to get filled in the draft in terms of trying to find somebody else that can really be an impact player. Safety, though, this isn't even necessarily pushing back at what Turbo's saying, because I agree with him. It's just that Tyakata started 11 games last year, and he played over 90% of the snaps in 10 of those games. So Tyakata has got that experience, and he's been in this defense the last 2 years. If you were counting on a guy that just spot started 1 or 2 games last year, like, oh man, yeah, a 10+ game workload is going to be a lot for that guy. But I can tell you right now, watching these guys at practice field, Tyakata was just like Kobe Bryant in a sense, like he's got that 6th sense of what everybody around him is going to do. And he figured that out starting all those games last year. And the crazy thing is, you see it at times in the field too. Like, I think instincts-wise, Akata is still trying to get to where Kobe Bryant was at, but Tyakata is actually a much superior athlete. If you look at their athletic profiles, Tyakata is a significantly more athletic player. So the instincts catching up, like this is a guy that could really bust out with ball production this year. We've already seen the sacks. He's got a little different game than Kobe Bryant. Mike McDonald's going to love mixing that in, though. And DeAnthony Bell played well when he had his chances last year. I think Rodney Thomas is an underrated signing, a guy that has started a lot of games in the NFL, can play both safety positions. He might even be able to play boundary corner in this system for the Seahawks. So I actually think the safety group as a whole might actually be better, because Nick Emmanwori, I think Nick Emmanwori is pushing for 1st-team All-Pro this year.
Yes.
He got a few votes for All-Pro teams this year as a rookie. I think he is going to be pushing for that this next year. I made the comment last August, and I know a lot of people, I don't throw around the reference of a gold jacket for a rookie. Like, that's not something I do. But I said it about Nick Emmanwori last year, and I'm doubling down on that. He is a gold jacket caliber player when it's all said and done. It's going to boil down to, do they stay healthy? Do they maximize his potential? But that's the kind of talent we're talking about here. He hasn't even come close to scratching the surface of what he can be in the NFL. And I think you're going to start to get a taste of that this year.
Yeah, I love that. Nick Emmanwori, Turbo, kind of add to that, because it just seems like the Seahawks are just scratching the surface with this guy. How can he get even better than what he did last year? I don't even know how, in my head, you can talk about that. As Corbin said, he was borderline a 1st-team All-Pro as a rookie.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, I want to go back to what Corbin said about the corners and the safeties, and he's absolutely right. You know, when I thought about my concern, it was mainly at corner, because my thing is like, okay, you got Witherspoon, who's going to play the nickel, all right, and then the outsides concern me. I know Josh Jobe was good last year, in spots, but it's just like, man, come on, we got some outside receivers in the league, man. Every play. You know what I mean? Like, so,
and you can complain about Reek and his consistency all you want. For the majority of last year, he showed up and he was an important part to this defense. And I know at big moments last year there were some concerns, but I agree with you, Turbo. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. But in terms of Nick Emmanwori, here's the thing with Nick, and this happens a lot with with rookies and young players. It's like, boy, he doesn't know a lot yet, guys. That's just naturally. In year 2, he's gonna know a lot more about what he's defending than he did in year 1. In year 3, he's gonna know a lot more about offensive schemes and how they're trying to attack defense better than he did in year 1 and year 2. It's just a natural thing. So when you talk about his growth, a lot of what he did was just off natural athletic ability. He's still learning how to watch film, fellas. He's still learning how to watch film and break it down. You don't get that in your rookie year. You don't. And so in terms of his growth and where you want to talk about instinct and understanding formation and splits and all of those things, man, those are things that are still developing for Nick Emmanwori, man. And when he gets that type of stuff down, where he's starting to bait quarterbacks and bait wide receivers, and that's when now you're seeing another step. So he got a long way to go, man. And you want to talk about a guy who can be all pro and all that kind of stuff. That's definitely potentially in his future.
You know whose eyes are widened by that prospect? It's Corbin's cat. Corbin, what's the name?
Yeah, S'more got very excited hearing about Nick Emmanwori. Meowing. Thinks
S'more as in like s'mores?
Yeah, you think Nick Emmanwori is going to be a all-pro, don't you? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. All right, let's talk about Spoon. I feel like it's really, really hard to underrate this guy because of how, 5th overall pick, the expectations are incredibly high. He was first in PFF grade for the corners last year out of all eligible players. Take that for whatever you want. It was a second-team All-Pro, but it still feels like there's another level to his game. Am I totally wrong in making that assumption, Corbin Smith?
No, I think he's just like Nick Emmanwori in this. And now he was much further along than Emmanwori coming to the league in terms of football instincts, because I remember talking to coaches at Illinois when Seattle had drafted him, and they were like, there were times we wanted to stop practice because we thought he was cheating. Like, he knew every play we were running, and like they thought he was cheating. It's just like, the dude, he is a walking football encyclopedia. Like, he knows what the other side's going to do. And there are times we've seen that in the NFL since he's been in Seattle. I thought late last year really came on, had a fantastic Super Bowl, but it just seems like there's a whole other level.
Totally.
He got second team All Pro last year with just one interception. And I think teams are going to, especially if Seattle drafts a good corner that they can plug in, or Nehemiah Pritchett rises up, teams are going to take their chances throwing at him a little bit more. I think there's way more for him ball production wise in terms of interceptions. Pass breakups, he's been really good at getting his hands on football. But Mike McDonald's even mentioned he'd like to get him more involved in the pass rush like he did in the Super Bowl last year. And there's just so many things that you can still do with Devin Witherspoon. And I don't know that there's, Nick Emmanwori's up there too, but I don't know there's a more fun player to watch on the Seattle Seahawks when he's right than what Devin Witherspoon is. And I still think there is a whole other level for him where he becomes, and that's why I'm more than happy to pay him that record-setting cornerback deal, because I think he can be that player. I'm paying him to be that guy.
Yeah. Turbo, do you agree? Do you think there's another level to Spoon's game? And do you think he is that top level of corner, top 2 or 3 guys in the league? Do you think he's up to that level? Because I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say pushback, but if you were to ask a random national NFL analyst or someone who doesn't follow just the Seahawks, and you were to say who's the best corner in the league, it would take them a few names before they would get to Devin Witherspoon. And I think he's a little underrated nationally. That's just me. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, my bad. I was muted. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Because, I mean, we could talk about some of the best corners in the game right now and just kind of see where he sits. We could talk about some of the best corners. We had one of the best corners, probably in the history of the game.
Yep.
Is he at that level? I don't know. That's really tough. My question to you guys is, you're gonna make him the highest paid corner in the league. Are you concerned about his injuries at all, and what is his personality like? Corbin, you would know better than I would.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So Spoon is another one.
And let me just preface by saying, and I'm not making any assumptions. All I'm saying is, when you make a guy the highest paid player, personality is important.
It matters, yeah,
because of what happens after potentially that. So go ahead.
I see him and Jackson Smith and Jigba being in the same vein. JSN is not near as chatty on the field as, and Devin Witherspoon's got that that trash talking element to him, but they're both
always
they are both very mature young guys that love to play the game. I mean, Devin Witherspoon is that, and I'm making a basketball reference because he was a really good basketball player. Devin Witherspoon is that kid that you have to kick out of the gym because you have to close for the night. That's Devin Witherspoon's mentality. That's who he is. That's the way that's never going to change. That's just who Devin Witherspoon is. And he's just going to be, he's going to be a lot richer, but Devin Witherspoon, I guarantee you 3 days after the Super Bowl, they got to do their celebration. I guarantee he's okay, I'm bored. Time to get back in the lab. That's just the way that Devin Witherspoon is. That's how Jackson Smith and Jigba is.
Yep.
So that's why it's April 9th, draft's April 23rd. I'll be kind of surprised if we don't have a contract from him before then. I think John Schneider knows what he's got there with those two players that are foundational pieces, and this ownership group, even with the sale going on, those are two guys they're going to be happy to check off those investments in.
Let's do this exercise. We have a couple minutes left. Spoon. I'm gonna name cornerbacks in the league that are widely regarded as the best in the league. You say, is Spoon better than this guy?
Anders, that away.
Let's do it. I kind of threw it out there, so I'm curious.
I like it.
Better than this guy, yes or no? Pat Surtain?
No.
Corbin?
Oh man, can I say draw? Am I allowed to say draw on that? Because they're two different players that do different things, but I think they are equally impactful to their teams.
Okay.
That's Surtain is a better cover corner overall.
Okay.
Pat Surtain ain't going to be doing the sack stuff, and I don't think he's near the run defender. I think Devin Witherspoon's the best run defending corner in the NFL. And that is a big thing for this Seattle Seahawks defense. So I don't want to take shots at Pat Surtain because he's a phenomenal player, but I think that that Devin Witherspoon, his value is sometimes not even shown up in the box score with some of the things he does that make him so great. I just think they are on the same playing field. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah. Christian Gonzalez.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Corbin?
Yeah. HE double hockey sticks. Yeah. Yep.
Hell yeah.
All right. Derek Stingley.
Ooh.
Houston.
Nah.
Corbin?
Yes.
Wow.
I think Derek Stingley's a phenomenal player. He's a first-team All-Pro a few years ago for a reason. But he's also got some warts in his game. And JSN twisted him up in knots last year. There are times where he is in the club of, I'm going to take a elevator away from the run game because I'm not interested in playing it. Like, I don't think he's as complete of a player as Devin Witherspoon is.
Okay. I like it. Trent McDuffie, Turbo.
Hell, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
100%.
Corbin.
Oh, yeah. Hell
Yep,
yeah.
I agree. I think Trent McDuffie's a really good player. I don't think he's worth what the Rams paid him.
Okay.
I also think that getting away from that defense that Steve Spagnuolo runs, there's gonna be some growing pains for him with what the Rams are gonna be asking him to do. So Devin Witherspoon to me I think is a superior talent. Yes.
All right. I think I know what the answer of this one's going to be, but I'll just say it anyway. Sauce Gardner, Turbo.
Oh, please.
Okay. Yeah. Corbin.
Yep, far and away, yes.
And
Sorry.
Sauce Gardner shouldn't have won Defensive Rookie of the Year that should have been Reek Woolen.
Yeah.
I think Devin Witherspoon is a much more complete player than he is.
DJ Turner
DJ Turner.
from Cincinnati.
Man, hell no. Man, yes.
Okay. I think we found the range that he's in.
DJ Turner not even in the conversation.
You don't need to throw any more names out there because I'm just going to tell you what I think. I think Pat Surtain and Devin Witherspoon are the two best corners in the National Football League.
Okay.
I think if you're looking at what they do, if you're watching the film and there just aren't very many guys that can do what Devin Witherspoon does, playing inside and out and blitzing and rocking dudes as a run defender. And I just think, Pat Surtain to me is the best cover guy, and Stingley would be up there too. I just don't think Stingley brings some of the other stuff to the equation.
Yep.
Surtain is a future Hall of Fame caliber type guy. But I think Spoon is right there with him because he does so many things that if you watch the film, you're like, well, that ain't going to show up in the box score, but he impacted that play, like blowing up blocks. Like, how many 185-pound corners blow up blocks? And Devin Witherspoon is that guy. So to me, those are the two best corners in the league. I don't know that there's anybody else you could throw a name out there that I would say pass on with Devin. And that's why I'm willing to pay him that kind of money because I think that's who he is.
All right. I love it. I love to hear that. I think I agree with you. I think he's in that at least top 2 or 3. Christian Gonzalez in that tier, but I still think Spoon is better than him. So definitely in that top 2 or 3 of corners. And there's a shout that he's the best corner in the league, honestly. It's not out of the question.
I think after this year, I'm making this prediction right now. I think after 2026, that is going to be the talk.
Okay.
Because I think Nick Emmanwori's jump, I know they play different positions, but you're going to see Witherspoon playing more on the outside, more opportunities to make plays in the football. I think you see a major uptick in interceptions this year from him.
Love that. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for exercising this, process with me as we talk about expectations going into the season. I know a lot of you are just consumed with NFL draft talk right now. I think it's great to kind of take a step back and look at who is on the roster for the Seattle Seahawks going into 2026. What if we can expect a jump up from them? If we can expect exactly what they gave us last year, or maybe in some rare cases a step back. But I think overall, if I'm speaking for both you guys here, you guys think this defense, if you were to predict what the expectations are, it's realistic to expect this defense to be even better in 2026 than 2025. Turbo, am I correct in that assumption?
Overall, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Corbin, is that the same for you?
Yep. And that's why I said this football team, I think, has a chance to be better than last year's team.
Wow. Even before the NFL draft. Jeez, that's a crazy thing to say, especially for a Super Bowl champion. We know what.
Again, they were a year or two ahead of schedule this last year. I was saying last year going into this, what my expectations were, I thought they were a playoff team that maybe could win a playoff game. Yeah. For them to go win a Super Bowl and then it's gosh, the continuity is just, it really is unprecedented. I know they lost a few dudes, but the Eagles lost 19 players after they won the Super Bowl. A few years ago, the Chiefs lost 21. They lost 5 guys off that team. The continuity is insane for a defending champion. And there's a lot of elements here. You got to stay healthy. That's something that the injury bug is always looming over. But on paper, on roster, and we've still got a draft coming up to add to this team. To me, this is a team that is still trending upward.
Yep. Lots to get excited about for the Seahawks, even after Super Bowl. Maybe hopefully get into back-to-back. Let's keep it here for your draft coverage. Corbin, Rob, Nick, all those guys, they got you covered. If you're looking for written content, Emerald City Spectrum's where it's at. Turbo, you got any draft coverage anywhere else besides here, or are you just going to giving us all your love?
I will be on Sirius XM NFL Radio Channel 88, April 26th, okay? 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. Actually, 1 o'clock p.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. to 4 p.m. Okay, it's a 4-hour show. So what am I doing here? It's 1 o'clock p.m. to 5 p.m. Thank you. All right, Sirius XM Channel 88. All right, NFL Radio. Myself, Bill Lekis, post-draft coverage. Come check us out.
Love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this exercise here. I know, like I said, everyone's talking draft and stuff now, but it's good to kind of keep an eye on who is on this roster moving forward and what our expectations of them are for the next year. We'll definitely jump back into draft stuff for the next couple weeks because exactly 2 weeks from today, the NFL draft will be starting. So we'll talk to you guys a little bit later. Emerald City Spectrum, Sirius XM Channel 88, and of course, Locked On Seahawks. Got all your coverage for the Seahawks as we lead up to a big day 2 weeks from today. We'll see what the Seahawks end up doing. We'll talk to you guys next time. Go Hawks.